Today's video is about MIDI effects. Whether you use a keyboard or piano roll in your DAW, MIDI effects transforms one set of notes into something else, and each DAW has its own set of MIDI effects, or MIDI modifiers. Even iOS can do this using apps like Audio Bus and the MIDI Flow plugins. And do excuse the awkward keyboard playing in this video. I was trying to make it clear that I was playing one note at a time. Usually, I play like this. Definitely like this every time. But anyway, before we get started, let me quickly introduce today's sponsor, EVOXA by Echo Soundworks. Long-time viewers of the channel will know that Echo Soundworks is my favourite sound designer.
The most exciting pack of Serum presets I've ever seen. I like it so much.
He did it again! And this pack is just as good as those. I love it. Good for modern genres like drill, slap house, lo-fi, and hyperpop. Alongside more established genres like future bass and house. And as you'd expect, all sounds used in this video are presets from the pack. Let's begin. My favourite way to play chords is using complete control. It's free with complete start, and if we choose chord set, each note on the keyboard is now a different chord in the scale we choose here. Great for people like me that don't know music theory. Now there are other plugins that do a similar thing, but my favourite is definitely complete control. Quite simply, I prefer the chords. It's not like each chord is a simple 1-3-5 or 1-3-5-7 chord. Each chord set is a collection of interesting chords. Using complete control, set the arpeggiator's swing to nearly maximum, turning an arpeggio like this into something like this. Here I'm using chord set and the arpeggiator. So a single note generates a chord, and then that chord is turned into an arpeggio looking something like this. And remember, complete control is free. Using sequence and inversion in complete control's arpeggiator, you can create some pretty complex patterns, melodies almost. Wonderful. Here I'm using layers, such that after 76 milliseconds, a second note happens 7 semitones lower. If you're using an older version of Ableton and don't see note echo included, you'll need to download it from the Max for Live pack, Max for Live Essentials, which is free. Creating complex rhythms by stacking note echoes or delays. Here's a simple one. I have 3 layers here, the original, one happening after 4/16ths, and then one happening after 6/16ths. And again, if you don't see note echo in Ableton, download it from the Max for Live Essentials pack, which is free. Or create a delay by stacking note lengths. Humanizing chords. When humans play chords on a keyboard, the chords don't look like this, they look like this. No matter how hard we try, we just can't quite play all the notes at exactly the same time. And so if we're creating chords that are perfectly in time, using say complete control's chord sets, we could use Max Humanizer to create that variation, that random timing variation. Just remember, because this is random timing variation, sometimes the chords sound good, sometimes not so good. So you'll need to try it a few times and pick your favourites. In the case of Ableton, Max Humanizer is free as a part of Max for Live building tools. Try using an arpeggiator to strum a chord. Most arpeggiators can do this. Maybe the mode is called once, or in the case of Ableton, you change repeats to 1 and set a quick time of say 25 milliseconds, strumming the chord like a guitar. Once again, I'm creating a chord input using Complete Control's chord sets. Another way to create a strum effect is to use note echo with some pitch shifting, some feedback rooted into a scale MIDI effect, turning this into this. Sounds very magical. My favourite way to play in a specific scale is to use easy mode in Complete Control, where remember, Complete Control is completely free. It's included in Complete Start. Easy mode turns the white keys into the scale you've chosen and completely disables the black keys. I like the major pentatonic scales. It's a happy scale. So now I can simply drop my fingers on the keyboard and play a melody, all in scale. I also like the Hungarian minor scales. And here's a blues scale. So unlike other MIDI effects, this means you can see at a glance the interval within the scale. By looking purely at the white keys, we can see, for example, 1, 3, 5. So this would be a 1, 3, 5 chord. Most arpeggiators have a repeat function, so instead of turning a chord into an arpeggio, it simply repeats the chord. Most arpeggiators also have a hold function, so when you trigger it, it continues playing until you trigger the next thing. In this case, again, I'm playing chords using Complete Control's chord sets, where a single note triggers a chord. Try layering arpeggios, each layer with a different rate or style, where style is the order the notes are played, and maybe pitch one of the layers down, say 12 semitones an octave. So here a single chord generates 2 arpeggios that play at the same time. One arpeggio plays at an 1/8 rate, and the second at a 1/4 rate, pitched down an octave, where again we're inputting a chord using Complete Control's chord sets. Here, each arpeggio layer is playing at the same speed, but playing the notes in a different order. So one layer creates this sequence, and the other layer this sequence. It's almost like writing a counterpoint melody at the same time automatically. Here's a fun one. Make it so the note plays on the release. Don't just jab at the keyboard, otherwise it'll just feel like normal, but with a bit of latency. Slow down a bit. There's a very different feel when note triggers on the release. You end up playing slightly different rhythms to normal. Here I have 2 layers. One plays like normal when you trigger the note, and the second one triggers when I release the note. It's slightly unusual, but you end up writing different rhythms. Try playing one Serum preset when you trigger the note, and a different preset when you release. This mirrors many real-life instruments. In the real world, many instruments have a specific sound when you release the note. Rather subtle, normally. So in the electronic world, it's normally best to have quite a subtle release sound, too. Velocity is a measure of how hard you play a note, and many synth presets react to velocity. You might find it useful to fix input velocity. This means I can get the soft sound out of the preset without having to play softly. Not to mention many MIDI keyboards, such as this one, have truly awful velocity sensitivity. If you haven't checked your keyboard before, you should use something like MIDI Monitor to see. It's bundled with Live 11, but otherwise get it from Max for Live Essentials, which is free. Bad keyboard. I suppose it's my fault for choosing the keyboard, prioritizing wireless over everything else. Max Step Echo, turning inputs like this into this. It's available free in Max for Live building tools. If you then make it transpose each repeat and then map this to a specific scale, the result sounds melodic, almost. Finally, we have Max MIDI Gran, also available for free in Max for Live building tools. It's my favourite way to generate pretty random notes. No computer, you are not jazz. You can map the notes to a scale if you want. Not sure what you'd use this for, but lots of fun. Fun. I like fun. You can find a link to today's sponsor, EVOXA by Echo Soundworks, in the description below. See you in the next one.